Welcome back, everybody, to the Meeple Marathon, and today I have a very special unboxing for us to go through. This is Direwild, and this is, in fact, the Kickstarter Special Edition. I had to track this down secondhand, but it is barely touched. I don't even know if I think the gentleman just cut it open, looked at it, and then put it back in the box and said that a buddy of his got the same copy, and so he never needed to play this. So this is not super easy to find, but you can find it on the secondhand market. And I remember waffling on this Kickstarter, deciding not to back it, but then watched One Stop Co-op Shop and Colin playing through the game and was immediately hooked. And since then have been trying to track down a copy without paying, cutthroat prices on eBay. So I finally acquired one locally, so I didn't have to pay shipping, and I'm very excited about this. This is a deck builder that also involves some actual movement and combat on a small map tile. So kind of similar to Thunderstone Quest, where it's involving having to move through. It's not really a dungeon, but there's more than just the building of the deck. So let us take a look at the box here. So we can see on the back here that it is fully cooperative deck builder, and it's got this dungeon crawler aspect in it. The retail version comes with these standees, but this version, the Kickstarter version, comes with some miniatures. And essentially, once you've got your cards, you choose a main card, and then you flip all the rest of them upside down, and they create these bonuses that you build up this amazing monster, and each of the bonuses has a little adjective to it that just makes it fun to read out what you're sending out into the world. So let us take a look now at what is inside. Okay. So we've got our instruction manual, and their instruction manuals here are actually broken up into two things. Book one is the introduction to the game and the setup. So it's going to cover iconography, it's going to cover and then how to set up the game. So lots of pictures, very detailed, but essentially it's about 7 pages here, and then it says start playing. Pick up book 2 and actually start going through it. And then once you've finished a chapter, you can come back to this one to figure out how to play the game. There are a lot of keywords in the game, but they're all listed here on the back of this particular instruction sheet. So then this one actually instructs you to go through an introductory scenario and follow it step by step. So if you are somewhat familiar with the game, you can probably just follow these banners on the outside. But then if you don't understand something, there are more details on the inside. So I think this is a really nice setup here for an instruction manual, because it's basically taking you step by step through the process, covering everything in a nice relevant order. And so this one's a little longer, but again, there's lots of pictures, and even still, it's only about 12 pages, and then we have some more a couple pages of super details and an index. So that's the setup of the instruction manual. Here we have what appears to be, I'm not really sure what these are, if these are supposed to be like they look like the walls. So maybe you can throw these up and actually create like 3D walls, even though they're just printed on the board. Okay, so now we have, and there's these really nice references on the side of the box. Just really smart job in general. So I guess if you have this sitting on the table, you can be aware of, you can just look over and see what's there. So this Kickstarter version also includes a custom made insert that was part of the Kickstarter. So once I undo all the cards, you can see all of these are all still sealed. They will be stored in here. So on top here we have the miniatures, we can take a quick look at them. Now again, these are replacing standees that are in the base game, but they are just, you know, a nice touch in general. Let's see if we can get a better look at some of these. So here is the bad guy. His name is Karn, and he is a druid, summoner druid, just like the rest of us, but some things have happened. He has a checkered past, and he's now out to get everybody else. These bases are essentially for these guys, and these guys represent the bad guys in a very, you know, they don't look like the bad guys will, but you have the colored rings, so you know who is who. So you're always, there's always only ever going to be these same four bad guys on the board, but the cards are going to show you who all is, you know, what you're facing. So, and then there is basically 4 factions, but each faction has a male and a female to it. And even the male and the female are not just male and female. They each have their own unique play style. So some of the attributes are the same, but essentially you have 8 unique characters here, and you can play up to 4 players. So there's the miniatures. Again, they're not necessary, but that's more of just a cosmetic upgrade. Okay, so here are the player boards, and you can see that this is the Clan Shadowleaf. So Clan Shadowleaf's all going to have Venomous, but his magical abilities here are going to be very different than Romy, who also has a Venomous, but Blink and Icor here are different than Sneaks and Iocane Powder. Then we have Clan Groundbreaker Tog, or Kachar. Luna is the Clan Featherheart. You know, it's noticing that some of the cuts on these are not like super well done. You know, there's excess on the bottom of this one. That is interesting. Alaric, Clan Stormbringer, Jaren, and Syl. So actually there's 10 total. And Clan Bloodmaker, Faust, and Yzma. So these guys look very similar, but they are different. So there are your hero options in the game. And then the game comes with these, so I guess you can play just 4 people. These really handy, really nice, solid, these go through the turn order. And then on the back, there is just some iconography. So these are just player aids. Then we have a whole set of standees that, again, we will not be needing these because we have the miniatures, but if you get the retail version, this is what you'll be using. And for some people, that's perfectly fine. Okay. So next in the box, we have these are the map tiles. And I believe the base game just comes with 1 extra tile, which is going to cover Chapter 1, Chapter 2, and then Chapter 3 is actually built into the board. But this, I believe the Kickstarter version comes with an extra Chapter 1 and an extra Chapter 2. So one of the things to note about the way the AI functions in this game is that until they have been alerted to your presence, they're actually going to follow this kind of footpath here that you can see with the tracks on it. And if you are running around and being sneaky about it and not setting yourself up adjacent to them, you could make it a while where they're just patrolling. So it gives you a little bit of time to build up your deck before you have to encounter them. This space here is going to be where Karn, the main bad guy, comes in. But then you can see there's a green minion, a red minion, white or black, and then a blue. So they each start in different areas, but then they'll hit this track and just kind of pace around. This guy makes a long walk over, but then everybody just kind of circles around here. So again, yeah, just very interesting. These extra ones appear to have some additional quicksand, caves, things going on. All right, so let's take a look at the main board here. And it is quite a big board, and it's very vertical. So I'm gonna show it off here, kind of laid on its, well, no, we'll show it off and we'll just have to push it up through. Okay, so here's the top of the board. This is where your market essentially is gonna be. And one of the really neat things about this game is that you tend to often have, in a lot of deck builders, you'll have like excess in-game currency that you might not be able to spend because you just can't, you can afford one card, but not everything else. Well, this market gives you the ability to use that extra, in this game it's called charm, but extra in-game currency. You can use a single in-game currency to get rid of a card, and you're going to be able to see what the next card is, so you'll know exactly, ooh, I want that card, and you can destroy one and bring it down. You can also spend a charm to put this card directly into or on top of your deck, so you know you'll draw it next turn as opposed to your discard pile. So say you want to purchase something for 4 charm and you have 5 in your hand, you can actually use that 1 extra charm to make sure you are going to draw that animal in the very next one. And then you have these abilities that are going to unlock throughout the game, and you have to unlock them in order, but each time, and you're going to put a certain number of lock cards on top of these piles before you can access them. But to take a single lock card off simply takes 1 charm. So, and the number of cards you put on is dependent on the number of players. So I think if you have like a 2-player game, you're going to put 4 cards up here. So after spending 4 extra charm, then you get the advanced creatures, and then you can move on to these next locks. All right, so moving down the board here, we can see that this is where the kind of enemy minions are going to be put into play. So there'll never be more than 4 enemies out on the board at a time. And simply the colors are just here to register that you can check the bases. And you can see here that in a 2-player game, there's actually only ever going to be 2 minions. 3-player and 4-player game. All right, moving down the board even more here is Karn's area. So Karn's going to have a stack of cards that are specific to him. And then he's going to have this hunting track, which as you flip over the AI deck, you'll move closer and closer to this whirlwind symbol. And then when he comes out onto that symbol. And you can see this is chapter 3. So Karn's dungeon is right here, but these boards simply will just sit over top of and line up with the staging area down here when you're playing the earlier chapters. There's also a turn reference thing over here, and then moving down to the very bottom, you can see that there is AI deck, treasure deck, upcoming minions, and wound deck. So all the other cards, essentially everything fits onto this massive vertical board here. So everything but your individual player space. Okay, so another nice touch that this game went ahead and did is they have these tuck boxes that there is one for each faction, essentially. So Romy and Vale are going to have the same cards, and so you can't play with Romy and Vale in the same game. You have to, each player picks their one faction, and nobody else can use that faction. But this tuck box allows you to save. It tells you what your starting deck needs to look like, but then it allows you to save the game very easily in between. Say you only want to play 1 chapter and you don't want to go all the way to chapter 3, you can save your game and tuck it into this little tuck box. And so then you can see here that they just fit real nicely down into here. There are some counters. These are upgrades as part of the Kickstarter. They simply replace, you can see cardboard tokens. I may actually use the cardboard tokens, though. They seem to be a little bit easier to see. I believe these came with the insert if you purchase the insert, because it's the same style wood. You've got some regular D6s in here. You have this unique die that is it's a D6, but it only goes up to 3. So there's 2 of each number, 1, 2, and 3. And then I believe in here, yep, there should be so there's 2 D3s, and then this one is a regular D6. So at the beginning of the game, before you have upgraded your character, your attack modifier, which is always going to be a positive number, you're only going to get maximum of 3. So you're rolling this one. Then halfway or at some point in the game, you're going to be able to upgrade your attack modifier die to a D6. So you always have your base attack, and then you modify it by rolling one of these 2 dice to add to it. There are some standees here for the cardboard standees. We're not going to need those. These are to keep track of your magic on your character board, and you can see they're all color-coded based on the factions. And then there are some standard wooden cubes which track your where's my player board here? Some of my player, oh, they're over here. This is going to track your ability to inflict more or better damage. So you can move the cube up and down this track, and actually your base will be modified by this plus the die roll, but you can also go on the negative and you can inflict, for example, like poison. If we go back here to Vrail, you may deal 1 poison to an enemy before the battle. That's going to reduce that enemy's battle value by 1. So inflicting poison on them is going to go back here, and between every round, at the beginning of every round, everybody's cube moves back to center. So if it's way down here, it would move up to -2, or even if it's +3, you're going to cool down a little bit and move back down to +2. Okay, so everything else in here, let me just tip this up so you guys can see. Oh, there is 2 green dice. Okay, so there is a spot for tokens. There is a spot for each of the faction tuck boxes. And then there are these tuck boxes for saved games, and I believe the main cards are going to be in these here that we'll take a look at in a second. Destroyed cards that you can keep track of during the game. There's this little extra pack of puppies. Must have been a Kickstarter exclusive. And then there's even these very basic but really nice cardstock card dividers here, which I'm not really sure where they're supposed to go because they don't really fit in here. I guess maybe they will go right there. I'm not sure. I'm gonna have to figure out where all this stuff goes. But as you can see, everything is still in shrink. So this was essentially purchasing a brand new game, even though I got it for like a used price from someone local. So let me go ahead and take the shrink wrap off of some of these decks, and we will take a look at some of the cards more closely. Okay, so I've got lots of cards out here to show you guys, and what I'm going to start with here is essentially the basic cards. So these are going to be your starting cards in your deck. You can see that your starting deck's essentially going to be made up of a lot of kittens. Now, kittens have no like attack modifiers. They just make things fluffy and that's it. But they're basically your basic charm cards. But what's awesome is that each one has like unique artwork here. And then you have your puppies. Now your puppies don't come with any charm, but they're going to give you a basic 1 attack, or they can be a good base card to start off with. So you're basically going to have puppies and kittens starting off in your hand, along with some cards that are unique to your clan. So you can see Clan, Stormbreaker, Karnly Mantis, and these guys are going to give you some bonuses that may, when you play them out of your hand, will give you bonuses, or they may give you bonuses if you make them your main card. But you can see they've got even better stuff here at the bottom. So essentially what you're going to be doing, and this is what a hand might look like early on, is say these are the 5 cards you drew. You're going to say, all right, I'm going to start with a Karnly Mantis. And then you're going to take all your other cards and turn them upside down like this. And so now you have created this creature that you have summoned to help you in battle. And you now have a Scythed Hyper Furry Wild Karnly Mantis. So it's fun to just say those names, but you don't need to. That's just part of the fun of the game. But you can see this guy has 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 total attack. And he's going to give you an extra additional movement on top of your base movement. And so that's essentially how you, put together your cards during the attack phase. And so let's just take a real quick look at each person's personal cards. So these are the Clan Groundbreakers. They get the Rock Stoats. You may wound yourself. Now they actually use wounds in a beneficial way if you look at their cards. Then you have Featherheart has the Ogden Penguin. If you're not adjacent to a minion, you may discard a card to draw a card. So again, the uniqueness of each faction is really nice. You may distract a minion. And last but not least, here we have the Zolo Sloth. Reveal the top card of your deck, you may discard it. So those essentially are your basic cards that you start off with. Everybody's hand is mainly kittens and puppies, and then your unique guy. So then what you have here, these are the kind of common creatures that have this grayish greenish back on them. And you just have a whole lot of unique creatures here and unique artwork. And you see some of them have, you know, just various symbols at the bottom. Some of them are good to start with, some of them are good to add up here. They all have their cost in the upper corner. But I mean, look at this. The artwork is really nice. It's really clean. You know, I feel like they could have maybe thrown a background in here, but again, to identify them versus the advanced creatures, you need to see that background. So Gearbug, Fellwood Frog, I mean, all of this, I've yet to come across a duplicate card here. So and all these have this keyword up at the top, say reptile or mammal. That'll come into play when you're combining cards. So there's just some of the examples of the kind of common creatures, and then you have the advanced creatures, and you're going to see that they are simply giving you much better stats overall. They're going to be more expensive though, and you have to unlock this pile even. Sawtooth Gator, Arcadian Monkey, High Iron Stag, Arcadian Tiger. Just some awesome stuff right here. Just, you know, looking at these cards is just entertaining. So, all right. So the other things we have here, these are the unlock cards. So there's just a whole bunch of them that all look very similar. Again, you're just going to put a stack of these, a certain number on top of each unlock area, and to remove one card is going to cost you one extra charm. You have a treasure deck that if you land on a treasure tile, you get to flip over one of these cards. These are essentially just relics and additional things. A lot of them are one-time use things that will help you, you know, make things easier during battle. They're not all relics, I promise. You know, so teleport potion, some more potions. There's a jackpot. You get to draw 2 more treasure cards. Scroll of Attack, Scroll of Fury. So, and a treasure monster. So, you know, you can get ambushed by a treasure. All right, these are your wound cards. These are essentially, you know, nothing but deck clogger uppers. They have the same back as the other cards, and if you have to draw them in your hand, they're just a useless card. Here's the standard enemy AI deck. You essentially go from top to bottom, doing all these things. You can see here, like the eyeball would activate a minion. This would be like inflicting wounds. It's telling you how much they're moving and priority. So very simple AI cards, but this is how the AI is controlled in the game. And then you have hardcore difficulty cards. So if you start finding the game to be too easy, then you can up the difficulty. And this is a little reference card for the hardcore AI cards. All right, then let's go here. This is Karn's deck. So Karn has these, you know, specific cards to him and how he activates. You can see here he's got a very high number to get to in order to attack him. And then he also has these regenerate cards, which essentially means you need to defeat him multiple times depending on the player count. And last but not least, we have the minion cards, and they're divided up into 4 or 5 categories here. You have Acolyte minions, Blightwood minions, level 4, level 3s, level 2s, grasslands, and level 1s. And this is probably, at least from what I've heard from people and just in general, what I've seen is that there's a ton of variety in these cards that you can draft, but there's not a whole lot of variety. Say, for example, these are your introductory minions, and there's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to choose from. So, you know, there's not a ton of variety in the minions that you're going to take on. Some of these can be very detailed, but again, I would have liked to have seen a little bit more variety in the minions that you can take on. Here you can see there's just another, for level 2s, there's just 5 choices. So you're going to be seeing a lot of these same ones, but remember, you're only going to be looking at 2 to 4 per game as well. So maybe I will find over my course of my playthroughs that having a limited number of these is not a big deal. So in general, there you go. Last but not least, I guess we'll take a look at what's inside this little individual cellophane wrapper here. I'm not sure what this is for. I guess I could go back and maybe look at the Kickstarter page to find out, but it's really just 2 cards, and they are just 2 puppies, 2 unique puppies. So again, not quite sure what these are for. We'll just set them off to the side for now. So that is it for now. I am going to introduce myself to the rules and figure out how to play and figure out how I'm going to film this with such a odd board. But we'll definitely be getting a playthrough of this on the channel, and I'll let you guys know how it plays. If you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a thumbs up. And if you'd like to be sure to be notified when I do post a gameplay video of Direwild, please consider subscribing to the channel. Once again, thanks for watching. Have a great day.